now we are going to switch it over and talk to the Director of Undergraduate Recruitment. I think I said your title correct, from the University of Kentucky. And she's going to talk to us about her side of things and how transcripts and other things. She's not just going to talk about transcripts, but other things, how colleges, what they see as far as roadblocks or issues or anything that we can do to help them and help students get into the post-secondary schools. All right, thank you, Kara.
Well, thanks for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. As you said, my name is Kara Franke, and I serve as the Director of Recruitment for the University of Kentucky. But I am here today not to represent specifically Kentucky, but to serve as the college perspective in the admissions process for high school students. So today I'll be sharing with you some need-to-knows, partially on ETranscripts, but on some other things as well. So as you all are likely already aware, students submitting an admissions application for a college or university are almost always required to submit an official high school transcript alongside their admissions application. There are some higher education institutions that are now accepting self-reported academic records. So they are allowing students to submit their own classes and grades from high school, but the majority of higher ed still requires that we have an official high school transcript sent from the counseling office or an electronic system for the student. Most institutions will accept transcripts either electronically or through snail mail, but snail mail does delay the processing time for a student because of the time that it takes for the school to print and mail the transcript, the time spent in transit to campus and getting to the right office within campus, and the time that it takes the institution to scan in the paper transcript for the student's electronic file. So ETranscripts are the easiest, fastest, and most reliable way to send transcripts for students. I'm going to switch to my next slide here. So you will notice that some of the wonderful staff at CPE made these beautiful slides with both orange and blue, which is just perfectly timed for the UK-UT game tomorrow. Go Cats, by the way. Anyway, this chart gives you an idea of the pertinence of transcripts and the importance for students of sending them as quickly as possible. So first off, a student's application will not be complete without their transcript being received. If the student realizes that their transcript is missing, they will likely keep checking in with you and panicking every day about their application not being complete. So the sooner we get their transcript, the sooner their application file is complete, and the less likely it is that they'll keep dropping into your office, sending messages, having parents call, kind of trying to chase down that material coming in. If a student doesn't realize that their transcript is missing, then their file will remain incomplete, so they will not get a decision from the institution, and the longer it sits, the more deadlines that student may be missing that are going to be really important for their college enrollment. When the university receives a student's transcript, they start processing it. And that includes processing or calculating GPAs. That can include weighted, unweighted, or both, depending on what the university uses in any part of the admissions or scholarship process. It also includes evaluating the student's completion of their required pre-college curriculum. So we need to know what their grades and classes are in order to determine if they qualify for admission. So make sure in the transcript that the course level and subject is as clear as possible and that there's consistency between the way that's indicated across different levels. So for example, an AP level calculus or an honors English 4, and making sure that if it's an AP class, the AP and then the subject versus subject and then AP, and then it kind of goes back and forth. So you get a little confused reading the transcript about where to find that level of class. Also, make sure that your grading scale is included and is very clear, so we know exactly how you weight courses based on level and what score is needed for an A, B, and so on. So if we're trying to figure out how you came up with the GPA that you calculated for weighted or unweighted, we know exactly the scales that you're using and where that number comes from. We also want to know how many credits each class is, and sometimes transcripts will come in and they'll look like someone printed it out and then rescanned it back in, and it's a little lean to the side or it's a little fuzzy. So try to make sure that, you know, if you're sending something in on a different system or scanning anything in for any reason, that everything is just as readable and clear as possible. If you are sending in a transcript for one of your students who you know qualifies for a financial need fee waiver, it may be helpful for you to automatically send a waiver form or request when you are sending that student's transcript. Not paying the application fee or submitting fee waiver paperwork can also delay a student's application from being complete, and some students don't always know if they qualify for a waiver, or they may qualify for a waiver and not understand any documentation that may be required to verify that on the side of the university. Once a student's eligibility for admission is decided based on their grades and their scores and their classes, that student will receive an admissions decision from the institution. So they will know if they have been denied, meaning they need to look at their other college choices and evaluate their college plans, or they will know if they have been accepted and they are ready to move forward with gathering the information they need to make their college decision and to also take their next steps to confirm attendance for their school of choice. Without the student or without the college or university receiving the transcript for the student can't fully apply, the university can't evaluate them for admission, and the student can't be admitted. And all of those steps have to happen before the student can be considered for institutional aid, such as university-based scholarships. Institutional aid almost always has deadlines, and typically those deadlines are really strict. So you have to meet exactly all of the terms or you don't get the award. If a student needs to have a completed application by December 1st to be considered for scholarships, and they submit an application at midnight on December 1st, but they don't request their transcript or their transcript doesn't come in until December 31st, that student has likely missed the deadline and won't be considered for the scholarship that they could have received. Most students do not request their transcript from their high school until they have either already submitted their application for admission or they are almost finished with their application for admission. We also know that many students wait until the very last minute to submit their college applications. So there is a lot of activity around college deadlines, both for students getting in their application form and for them requesting materials from high school staff. So for example, at UK, we have applications kind of trickling in starting in August and all throughout the semester. And then we have a December 1st deadline. So that week prior to, we have tons of applications coming in all at once. And especially the night before the deadline and the day of the deadline, we have a whole lot of applications coming in. So we know that since students are waiting to send that in till the last minute, there are likely a lot of students who are asking you all for high school transcripts in the week leading up to the deadline. It is not ideal for students to wait until the last minute to request transcripts, but we know it happens. And we also know that it disadvantages students when their application file can't be completed because things haven't been received by the university. An additional thing to be aware of is that some students do not even realize that the school does not automatically send the transcripts on their behalf. Especially last fall when students were in and out of the school building because of the pandemic, and were in and out of the school building during a lot of the college prep work that happens in their junior year. They didn't get to connect with high school or college counselors inside the school building the way previous classes of students did. And it was really difficult to communicate to them what they needed to do around applying to college. Many students, especially first-generation students, were slow to submit their FAFSA for financial aid, and many of them incorrectly assumed that their high school knew the colleges they were applying to and had sent the transcript for them without them even having to ask. So we kind of assume that students should know they need to ask for that transcript and that the responsibility is on them for that step, but we know that sometimes that message just gets missed, and we don't want students to pay the consequences for that when it's an honest mistake. So we're reminding students a lot on the college side about making those requests and getting everything in for their application to be complete, but it's helpful also to have on the college side that reminder for students to get those things in and what steps they need to take to request their transcript. When you are working with students on where they are applying, it is also important to note their application source and for them to tell you if they change their application source. One example of why this is important is an issue with receiving transcripts through Naviance that occurs for some students using Common Application. So you heard on the high school side of things that UK is part of the Common Application, and students can add higher education institutions as schools of interest in Common App. So for example, a student Brandon adds in UK as a school of interest. He then has to apply through Common Application for us to receive his Naviance transcript if he's connected that with his Common App. So if Brandon adds UK as a school of interest in Common App, but decides not to apply to UK through Common App, he uses a different source, then his high school likely is going ahead and sending his transcript through Naviance, and it will never arrive to UK. If Brandon adds UK as a school of interest in Common App and applies through Common App, we'll receive the Naviance transcript that's sent from the high school. So basically there are hiccups sometimes if a student changes their application source, and sometimes it can look like the school should have received the transcript, but in reality they never did. Another rationale behind students needing their transcript to be sent early is that students need time after they are accepted to evaluate a lot of information to make their decision. So sometimes that's comparing financial aid across different institutions. Sometimes it's having the time to schedule additional visits to schools for more tours or the first tour. Sometimes students make their decision right away senior year, but they still have lots of steps after being admitted to make their new college account, register for an orientation, apply for housing, and many other things. So the earlier a student completes their application, the earlier they can be accepted, and the earlier they can get the information they need to make their college decision and move forward on those steps to confirm their attendance. One of the sometimes overlooked parts of the college enrollment process takes place as students graduate high school. So students are evaluated for college admission based on their high school transcript at the time of their application. However, the college they choose to attend does need that official final high school transcript, including the student's senior year grades and their graduation date, which I know was mentioned in the training on the high school guide too. I do really love seeing that graduation date and just having that verification. So if a student is admitted to college but ends up not graduating high school, that would affect the decision we made about their admission. So that's one of the reasons that this step is so important.
Hey, Karen, we're getting a lot of static from you all of a sudden.
Okay.
I don't know if there's paper sitting on your speaker or on your keyboard or anything or something like that, but it wasn't like that initially.
Okay.
Now you're sounding better.
Okay, so I had a stack of Post-its.
I thought it was just on my end, and we had to do a little checking on with each other whether it was just one of us hearing it, everybody hearing it. So.
Okay, I've moved all of my Post-its. Is it better?
Yeah, it sounds better now.
Okay, Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. You're great information. Just keep sharing.
Okay. So if you didn't hear the last 30 seconds or so, basically I was sharing about why colleges need that official final high school transcript from students with their graduation date and their senior year grades. Many students don't understand that they need to have that official final high school transcript sent. And it's very difficult for us on the college side to push that message with them in the summer. And if we end up not receiving their final high school transcript, we have to put a hold on their account that prevents them from registering for spring semester classes until we get that transcript. And that can be stressful and confusing for them. So it's a little bit challenging to put the responsibility for that on students because we know sometimes they don't see or read their emails or they don't answer the phone all of the time. So some districts allow colleges to request the final transcript on behalf of students in the summer, and that's really helpful for us just so we can get everything taken care of for the student without them having to take steps. But we know some districts require the students to make that request in the summer. So helping us to push that message with students that it is required and it's a necessary step for their college enrollment would be really helpful. So in summation, I have a few takeaways. So number one is be clear with students that they need to request their transcripts early from you. They need to tell you all of the schools they are applying to and what source they are using to apply. Second, on the high school side, you need to send student transcripts as soon as possible to their request date. And if possible, make extra time around big university deadlines like November 1st, November 15th, and December 1st, knowing that some students will ask you at the last minute and that even though they shouldn't ask you at the last minute, they may miss deadlines if their transcript isn't sent quickly. Third, make sure that students know that the college they attend will need their final high school transcript after they graduate. If possible, it's helpful for schools to send this out when either the student or the college requests it. On the information that I covered today, there are a lot of specifics or a lot of details, and there are some contingencies where sometimes it applies and sometimes it doesn't. So please know as a high school counselor that it's not your job to know how everything works for admission at the University of Kentucky. It's my job to know that, and it's our job, yours and mine, to work together to make sure that students are served. So I'm here to continue explaining and to answer questions and to partner for what you and your students need with respect to my institution. And I know that the same goes for other colleges and universities, that they just want to work together to help with whatever you need and with whatever your students need. So thank you all for your time and attention today, and sorry about the static.
No problem. All right, so we don't have any questions right now, but hold it just a minute in case anybody wants to add a question. Remember, it's app.gosoapbox.com, and it's KDE data is the access code if you need to add any questions for our afternoon presenters. Some takeaways that I've got on this, and they're not really new, but they're just great reminders, is communication. That's like number one. Really make sure you're communicating with your students while they're in school. They're listening to you. After they, and make sure that they know to get those, transcripts out there is as important as getting their application, because one can't go without the other. You really need both. And then make sure you've got backups. We're all sick. We all deserve vacations at times. There's just, but we need to have somebody monitoring that box so that transcripts can be submitted. And then let students know when grades are posted in graduation so that they can go ahead and request their transcripts, their final transcripts. It'd be a whole lot nicer to have that done where you're not having to fool with that in July and August when you're coming back into school. So if you can get that message out and get families to go ahead use some of that messenger we talked about earlier for other processes, the messenger services to go out and send messages out saying your transcript, your grades have been posted, the graduation dates have been posted. You can now request your final transcripts, to your schools you plan on attending. So those type of things are really things that we can use the tools that we have available to us to really help, not just helping them explore college going, but helping them be effective once they have decided on a school and they want to enter the post-secondary school and not have those any additional hurdles that they have to come up against. So, Kara, I don't think we have any additional questions unless someone sees something I'm missing that could have popped to the top. But we definitely appreciate your perspective today. It was great. I think we all have a vested interest in helping students succeed at the next level. So we will definitely want to work with you towards removing some of those hurdles and knowing what we can do to help. So we appreciate your perspective a lot today. Thank you.